Hello there guys, so you're back with me in Wayne's Cave, and in this episode we're going to just do a walkthrough of our new observatory building from scratch. And here you can see a picture of partway through making a nice concrete base, which will be nice and solid foundation for a decent structure that we intend on building. So here you can literally see, as in this picture, the different stages. So what I did was actually scrape the ground back to near level, then added measured, marked and screwed and staked the 6-inch gravel boards, which would retain the concrete and the hardcore underneath that concrete. It was a hard old graft. I got the hardcore for free, but I had to break it up by hand. That was interesting, but nonetheless, it was local and easy to get. So put that in, and then got my good friend round to give me a hand to mix up the concrete and start getting this base finished off. So without sort of dribbling on too much, I'm pretty sure from the image itself you can see the different compositing layers of work required for a concrete base, as you would any structure that you might want to lay, be it greenhouse, shed, whatever, if you want a decent firm base for. So we've got Dan here helping me lay this observatory base.
But you mean shed base?
No, mate, no, it's an observatory base. It's definitely an observatory. Big difference. There's a load of observing stuff in this special base. Isn't that right, Dan?
Oh yes.
So now comes the timber construction. So basically, I've got plans because I know my base is 7 foot by 7 foot square. I actually extended it from 7 by 5 because after I see it laid out, I thought, no, I want it a bit bigger. So anyway, it's a 7 foot by 7 foot base, and the first phase was using this 4x2. You can see me marking and cutting. Please don't worry, I'm a fully qualified tree surgeon, and I know I'm using my electric chainsaw, which is a very fine tooth cut, ideal for your carcass structure. And here I'm following my plan. So basically I've worked out the measurements because I don't want the structure to overhang the concrete pad. And of course, when you join two walls together, you have the thickness of the wood to take into account. So you don't just bang out a load of 7 by 7 foot lengths of timber and just tack them together. Obviously, two walls have to be minus the thickness of the other two opposing walls. So that's all measured, and that's what I've been measuring and marking out. Now here, this little block I'm cutting, this is the height difference of my pent sloping roof. Now what I decided to do was, so that I knew on the upright timbers what angle to cut the ends to, I've decided to make an angle stencil out of that small thin piece of spare ply I had laying around. And here you can see me pondering, and I think to myself, I don't want to get the angle wrong, so I physically lay out the angle, because knowing the height difference of 5.5 to, I believe, 6.5 foot would give me said angle you can see now standing up. So I simply clamped that piece down eventually once I'd worked out how I was going to mark this out. I'm sure some Pythagorean theorists out there would have done it on their bit of paper, probably just as quick as me marking this out, but I had it all laid out in front of me, so I couldn't be bothered. So there, we've marked my angle, and now I cut this stencil. I'm just writing on there what that piece of timber is to keep it all straightforward, and I can use that on all the uprights, all the upright timbers that I need to cut that angle off of for the roof. And pretty much that this pile of 4x2 that you can see. When I say 4x2, I mean inches, 4" by 2" and 7-foot long timbers. I'm pre-cutting all the lengths out that I know that I need. So I've got a let's say I've got a bottom rail of 7 foot long. Then I've got 2 uprights for each end because I double two lengths together to bolster up the corners on 2 of the walls, but on the other 2 walls I don't. So now we're starting the process of here. I believe what I'm doing is clamping and nailing together 2 corner posts, if you like. As I said, 2 of the 4 corners are doubled up like this, just to give the structure extra stability. And here, no doubt, I'm measuring, double checking the length is correct, so that then I can mark which corner, be it obviously the low end or the high end of the structure, and then using the stencil, just cut in that angle that the roof shall be sitting at. And again, I pull up another two lengths. This looks like this is the lower side, and again, all I'm doing here is just being careful to line up the timbers as true and square as possible. So I clamp one end, look, and then just double check that it's all in situ, sort of try and keep it pressed down firm in position while putting these hefty, they were just shy of 3" nails from the nail gun, blasted straight into it to pin that other upright post together. And again here, I'd marked using my stencil the angle for the top of that other corner upright, the angle of the roof coming down to meet it. And here, so I've got 2 long uprights, I believe, and 1 or 2 of the shorter end uprights done at this point. And here's another long upright that we just marked with a stencil and cut the angle into the top of that upright post. This clip will now be nearly coming to the end where we have pinned our uprights together and have our horizontal to the ground lengths all cut to correct length as per the plan, to then start stapling these together to form our bare structural walls. You'll see as it progresses what it starts making a bit more sense. And now we can start putting the actual framework for the walls together. And all I'm doing really is trying to concentrate on setting up my 2 uprights there to the base timber, tacking just 1 nail at a time in through the base timber to then be able to adjust the 2 uprights to get my 90-degree bottom corners set. And it all seems a bit quite fiddly at this point, because you're wondering how on earth you're going to sort of hold things at their perfect angle, but realistically you're not going to. But all you can do, like I did, is get the first 2 tacks in place. When I say tacks, I mean like 2 single nails, because 2 single nails will still allow a bit of movement. And then what I did there was used a length of timber that I could then place further along the uprights, and also measure the distance here of these 2 uprights from the base. I'm just checking that they're the same height from the base, and now I can work out what length, double checking the top piece is the sloping piece, so I'm double checking my measurements all the time as I go along. And again, double checking the length for this top piece and the angles along the bottom. And all you can really do is get it as near damn it, especially before you're putting in any strengthening pieces for the wall, because you'll always, even when carrying and moving around, it's always going to have a bit of flex laterally to it. So now you can see we've moved along, and on that first wall we've also put our upright supporting struts with some side pieces at angles, just to give it a little bit of rigidity. And now for the opposite wall, we did our outside beams like before and laid them for ease of adjusting our angles, and for nailing I laid it on top of the one pre-existing one that we had already nailed together. Rechecked all the measurements, rechecked the measurements of the cut timbers, put them in the measured proper positions, to then nail them in place. As you can see, basically mirror imaging the opposing wall there. So we'll super fast forward all the adjusting and nailing of these uprights. I used a little strut against the curb edge there just to give it some, so I could push some nice pressure against these timbers while nailing them in, look. And then we moved on to cut and placing the angled stiffener sections, laying them down and marking our angles. Cut the angles out. Checking that those angles are snug enough. Using some spacers underneath, which handily, some offcuts of 2x4, did the job just a treat. Held them in place, could tap them up into place and then nail them in. And that is then the 2 end walls. Here you can see a bit more of a close-up. So this is the floor, and the furthest point from this framework is the sloped roof, the highest point to the right dropping down to the left. Two mirror imaging side walls. I didn't record the two end walls because they were a bit more straightforward, but as you can see it now stood up in its position. This is after I'd got some of the cladding completed, and the two other side walls were done exactly the same. Here you can see on the left hand side, but they're more simple rectangular shape nailed together, and the cladding also started. Here, if you look inside the shed during this clip, you can see two struts that I've temporarily nailed to the framework, and this was during the levelling up process of the framework before this log lapping. So I just pulled one side wall in a bit, one out a bit, just adjust it and checked it with the spirit level. Then I knew the framework was level and square and true, and those two struts inside the building would hold it true while I then finished off nailing the framework together, and therefore could start a true and square cladding process, as you can see. And here, slowly going up the edge of the cladding, you can see the tongue and groove cladding profile, working from the bottom, cutting to measure the gaps you need cladding, and carefully tapping into position, and then moving inside the structure. Again, just showing one of the struts I'd left through the entire process, temporarily nailed from the bottom there up to the top corner on the left hand side, just helping to keep the structure true. And here a picture showing the cladding more or less complete, bar the last four pieces on that short wall next to the doorway. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of the first part of our observatory shed build, and hopefully you'll join me in a few weeks' time when the roof section is constructed and demonstrated with a pinch of luck. Thanks for all your support out there. Please hit subscribe if you haven't already, and the bell icon so you can see the next stage in the build. Really looking forward to winter coming up of some astro fun, so stay in touch. Take care, folks. Bye for now.